Diego Teixeira, a U.S.-based immigration lawyer who joins us now from Tijuana, Mexico, just next to the U.S. border. Thanks so much for being with us, Diego. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is such a complex story, and I think one of the elements we didn't mention is that a lot of people do obviously suspect that there is, an attempt maybe to sterilize immigrant women, almost as a perverse punishment. But another important issue at play here is that the health care for women in those detention centers is federally subsidized. And with that, even with private insurance, you get these unscrupulous doctors who want to take advantage of an opportunity to perform procedures unnecessarily many times in order to collect money. Is that also what's at play here in these federal detention centers?
Unfortunately, yes. This issue is somewhat complicated because of all the different factors at play. Across the immigration detention system, healthcare is usually not provided in any kind of systematically high standard. Throughout my experience as an attorney, it's been very common that when I know that one of my clients has some kind of medical issue, whether mental or physical, there often are compromises made and treatment is given at the level that's below the standard that they require to be at their best, including mental health care treatment so that they can actually perform at their best at the removal hearings. Also, on top of that, in the entire system of detention, whether it's jails, federal prisons, or other kinds of detention, or immigration detention, there's a kind of dehumanization of people. So therefore, consent is less important, informing the people is less important, and abuse is more common, and standards are just simply lower. We have seen this with the COVID crisis and the low degree of healthcare that people are given. So yes, so my understanding is, of course, I'm not an Aaron myself. I have not practiced an Aaron myself, but my understanding is that in this situation, it is understood that there's something is wrong, and we believe, of course, the women who are complaining. But at the same time, we've mostly heard from the whistleblower and very little from the detained women themselves,
right,
whose voices should be prioritized.
They should be prioritized, but these women, most of them, are going to be very scared. Their asylum claims aren't being taken seriously now in the first place because of the new policies under President Trump. And now if they raise an issue with, federally subsidized health care that, Trump will say, look, we're even giving you this gift, and you come out and complain. They're not going to want their names known for fear of even further punishment. So tell us, if you can, what has shocked you really the most about what is happening here? I know it's complex, but what really stands out to you most about this specific situation and the treatment of these women?
What shocks me and upsets me most is the systematic silencing of people, including these women, in the detention centers and the detention healthcare context. Obviously the surgeries were happening again and again and again, and it took a whistleblower to actually blow the cover on what is going on. We don't know the full extent of what's going on, but just the silence and the way that women were obviously concerned and upset that was happening, and they were just not being listened to. That's what shocks me most. And also the callous disregard, once again, for women of color, and the disregard for allowing them to have reproductive autonomy. In one part of the government, we have teenage girls being denied access to abortions when they are pregnant without wanting to be pregnant. On the other side, now we have women who are getting hysterectomies when they say they did not want hysterectomies. The agency of these women is in no way being respected, and it is not a coincidence that they are women of color, they're immigrant women, and they're women who don't speak English primarily. These are not coincidences. That's a key motivator, I would take it, for why their consent is not being taken seriously and why their agency is being taken away from them.
Right. So as far as the legal procedure to follow is concerned, I mean, will you have to prove in a way that doctors are actually being encouraged, to perform these procedures perhaps unnecessarily on these vulnerable women who will have no recourse?
Well, I work in immigration removal defense and immigration immigration law. That is a matter regarding separate civil rights violations. But it's while of course it would make my understanding of that the applicable law in that regard, although I'm not an expert in reproductive law myself, is that it's not necessarily to show the intention being that they're trying to actively sterilize women in systematic fashion. That would just aggravate the harm even further and add to the potential harm and therefore to the potential recourse to be taken, but it's not necessary to show intentionality in order to seek recourse. It's just the harm, like the bad procedures and bad healthcare against the consent of these women is enough without needing to show that ICE is encouraging it. That would just take it even further, to go from an incompetence and malfeasance standard to an intentional harm situation.
Right. This is a real mountain to climb for these women who've already been so vulnerable. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Diego Teixeira, for joining us and trying to bring some clarity to a very disturbing and complex story. Thanks for that.
Indeed. Thank you very much.